I've been paying my best friend's rent for 2 years because she said she was struggling. Last night, I found out she owns 3 rental properties and drives a BMW I helped her lease. I said nothing, just quietly made one phone call. By morning, the IRS was at her door. But this story starts with a friendship I thought would last forever. Victoria and I met in graduate school, both pursuing our MBAs. She was magnetic, the kind of person who could light up a room just by walking in, confident, charming, always perfectly put together. She had this way of making you feel like you were part of something special just by being her friend. I was flattered when she chose me as her study partner, then her confidant, then her best friend. After graduation, we both landed good jobs in the city. She went into real estate development. I went into corporate finance. We celebrated together, supported each other through the adjustment period, grabbed drinks every Friday to decompress from our demanding careers. Life was good. The first time Victoria asked me for money was about 6 months after we'd started working. She came to my apartment on a Tuesday night, looking uncharacteristically frazzled. Her hair was messy, her usually perfect makeup was smudged, and she seemed genuinely distressed. "I'm so embarrassed to ask this," she said, sitting on my couch with her head in her hands, "but I'm in trouble. My rent went up unexpectedly, and I miscalculated my budget. I'm short $800 this month. I know it's a lot to ask, but could you possibly help me out? I'll pay you back as soon as I get my next commission check." I didn't hesitate. Victoria was my best friend, she had a good job, and $800 wasn't going to break me. "Of course," I said, already reaching for my checkbook. "Don't worry about it, we all have months like this." She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You're a lifesaver," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." She paid me back 3 weeks later, just like she promised. I forgot about it. But then it happened again, and again, and again. The requests started coming every few months, always with a reasonable explanation. Her car needed emergency repairs, she had unexpected medical bills, her company delayed her commission payments, a family emergency required her to fly home. Each time, she looked genuinely distressed. Each time, I helped without question. The amounts got bigger gradually. $800 became $1,200, then $1,500, then $2,000. She always paid me back, but the repayment periods got longer. Sometimes it took 2 months, then 3. Then she'd ask for another loan before she'd finished paying back the first one. "I hate this," she'd always say. "I hate asking you for money. It's so embarrassing, but you know I'm good for it, right? I just need to get through this rough patch." I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She had a good job, she always eventually paid me back, and she seemed genuinely grateful for my help. Plus, I was doing well financially, my job paid well, I'd inherited some money from my grandmother, and I didn't have expensive hobbies. Helping my best friend felt like the right thing to do. About a year into this pattern, the requests became more regular and more specific. She started asking me to pay her rent directly. "It would actually be easier if you could just transfer the money to my landlord," she explained. "That way I don't have to worry about the timing, and you know exactly what it's being used for." That seemed reasonable. I started making monthly transfers of $2,800 to cover her rent. She was living in a nice apartment in a trendy neighborhood, so the amount made sense. She'd pay me back in chunks when her commissions came in, usually covering 2 or 3 months at a time before needing help again. "This is temporary," she always assured me. "Real estate is feast or famine, you know? But I'm building my client base, and things are going to stabilize soon." 2 years. For 2 years, I paid Victoria's rent almost every month. I also helped with car payments, insurance, credit card minimums, groceries when money was tight, and what she called professional development expenses, conferences, networking events, wardrobe upgrades for client meetings. In total, I gave her over $85,000. I never questioned it because she never lived lavishly. She dressed well, but she worked in real estate where image mattered. She drove a nice car, but she needed reliable transportation for her job. She lived in a good apartment, but nothing extravagant, and she always seemed stressed about money, always grateful for my help, always promising things would get better soon. Looking back, I realize how carefully she managed my perception of her financial situation. She never flashed cash, never bought expensive things in front of me, never suggested expensive restaurants or activities. When we went out, I usually paid, because I had more stable income. She played the struggling entrepreneur perfectly. The truth started unraveling last week, completely by accident. I was having lunch with my colleague David when he mentioned looking at rental properties as an investment. The market is crazy right now, he said. My realtor showed me this great duplex yesterday, but someone had already put in an offer. Victoria something. Apparently she owns half the rental properties in that neighborhood. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Victoria? What's her last name? Harrison, I think? Yeah, Victoria Harrison. My realtor said she's been buying up properties for the past 3 years. Mostly cash purchases. Smart woman, apparently, must be making a killing in this market. Victoria Harrison, my Victoria Harrison, who couldn't afford her rent without my help. I excused myself from lunch early and drove straight to the county assessor's office. As a finance professional, I knew how to research property ownership records. What I found made my stomach drop. Victoria Harrison owned 3 rental properties in the city. Not just owned, she'd purchased them all within the past 2 years. All cash purchases. The first one for $180,000, the second for $210,000, the third for $225,000, over $615,000 in real estate, purchased while I was paying her rent because she was struggling financially. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at the documents, trying to process what I was seeing. The purchase dates lined up perfectly with periods when she'd been asking me for the most money. She'd bought her first rental property 3 months after she started having me pay her rent directly. She was using my money to build a real estate empire. I drove to her apartment complex and did something I'd never done before. I asked to speak to the property manager. I'm trying to verify some information about one of your tenants, I said. Victoria Harrison in Unit 4B? The woman looked confused. We don't have a Victoria Harrison living here. Unit 4B is owned by Victoria Harrison, but she doesn't live there. She rents it out. Are you looking to speak to her tenant? The pieces clicked into place with nauseating clarity. Victoria didn't live in the apartment I'd been paying rent for. She owned it. She was collecting rent from me and rent from an actual tenant, double-dipping on the same property. I asked to see the rental records. Victoria had purchased the unit 18 months ago for $165,000 cash. She rented it to a young professional for $2,800 per month, the exact amount I'd been sending her for rent. She was collecting $5,600 per month on a single property, with me unknowingly funding half of it. I went home and did what I do best. I analyzed data. I pulled every bank record, every transfer, every payment I'd made to Victoria over the past 2 years. I cross-referenced them with her property purchase dates, her social media posts, her supposed financial emergencies. The pattern was crystal clear. Every time she bought a new property, she'd have a cash flow crisis that required my help. Every time I gave her money, it coincided with down payments, closing costs, or renovation expenses on her rental properties. She'd been systematically using my generosity to fund her business expansion while pretending to be broke. The BMW became the final insult. I found the lease agreement in her name, dated 6 months ago, around the time she'd asked me to help with car problems. I'd given her $3,500 for what she said were emergency repairs on her old car. Instead, she'd used it for the down payment on a luxury lease. I was furious, not just angry, incandescent with rage, but I didn't confront her immediately. I did something better. I planned. Victoria had made one crucial mistake in her elaborate deception. She hadn't been reporting her rental income properly on her taxes. I work in corporate finance. I know tax law. I know how rental income is supposed to be reported, how depreciation works, how business expenses are deducted. I also know what happens when people commit tax fraud. I spent the weekend building a comprehensive case file, property records showing her rental purchases, bank statements proving the money she'd received from me, rental agreements showing her actual income from tenants, text messages where she'd lied about her financial situation, photos from her social media showing her lifestyle improvements over the past 2 years. Most importantly, I had evidence that she was collecting unreported cash rental income while claiming financial hardship to extract money from me. The IRS takes a very dim view of unreported income, especially when it's combined with fraudulent financial claims. Monday morning, I called the IRS fraud hotline. I didn't call Victoria. I didn't demand an explanation. I didn't give her a chance to spin another story or manipulate the situation. I just quietly, methodically, provided the federal government with everything they needed to audit her finances and investigate her for tax evasion. The agent I spoke with was very interested in my documentation. This is a clear pattern of unreported income combined with fraudulent financial claims, she said. We'll definitely be following up on this. I also called my lawyer. What Victoria had done wasn't just morally wrong, it was legally actionable fraud. She'd obtained money from me under false pretenses, using fabricated financial emergencies and lies about her income. That's textbook fraud, punishable by both civil and criminal penalties. Victoria texted me Tuesday morning, completely oblivious to what was coming. "Hey girl, can we do drinks Friday? I have some exciting news to share." I replied normally, "Sure, sounds great. What's the news?" "I'm finally getting ahead financially, thinking about buying another property soon. Maybe you could give me some advice about investment financing?" The audacity was breathtaking. She wanted my advice on financing her next investment property, probably planning to fund it with more emergency loans from me. I told her I'd love to help. Wednesday morning, her world started collapsing. The IRS showed up at her office with a warrant to examine her financial records. Her employer was notified about the investigation. Her bank accounts were frozen pending the audit. Her rental properties were flagged for income verification. She called me in a panic. "Something insane is happening," she sobbed. "The IRS is saying I owe back taxes on income one never reported. They're claiming I have rental properties I never told them about. It's all a mistake, but they won't listen to me." "That's terrible," I said calmly. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Tax issues can be so complicated." It wasn't a misunderstanding, it was consequences. By Thursday, the full scope of her fraud was becoming clear. She owed over $40,000 in back taxes, plus penalties and interest. The IRS had discovered she'd been underreporting her income for 3 years. Not just the rental income but also commission payments from her real estate job that she'd been receiving under the table. Friday morning, she was arrested for tax evasion and fraud. The civil case moved quickly after that. My lawyer filed suit for fraud, conversion, and unjust enrichment. We had overwhelming documentation of her lies, her unreported income, and her systematic deception. She'd used my money to build a business while pretending to be struggling financially. The settlement was substantial. She had to liquidate all 3 rental properties to pay her tax debt, legal fees, and restitution to me. She lost her real estate license due to the fraud conviction. Her BMW was repossessed when she couldn't make the payments without her steady supply of money from me. Victoria went from owning 3 properties and driving a luxury car to living in a studio apartment and taking the bus to her new job at a call center. The IRS garnished her wages to pay the remaining tax debt. She'll be financially devastated for years. She tried to reach out once, about a month after everything was finalized. She left a voicemail apologizing, claiming she'd never meant to hurt me, that everything had just gotten out of control. She said she'd been planning to pay me back once her rental business was more established. I deleted the voicemail without finishing it. The investigation revealed she'd been running the same scam on 2 other people, another friend from business school who'd been helping with her car payments, and a former colleague who'd been covering her medical expenses. Between the 3 of us, she'd collected over $200,000 while building her rental empire. We all joined the civil suit. She lost everything. Sometimes people ask if I feel bad about destroying her life so completely. The answer is no. She destroyed her own life the moment she decided to build her success on lies and exploitation. I just made sure there were consequences. 2 years of friendship, over $85,000 in loans, and countless hours of worry about her financial struggles, all while she was secretly becoming a successful property investor using my money. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, so extensive that I still sometimes can't believe it happened. But it taught me something important about trust and verification. Now I help my friends when they need it, but I also pay attention to inconsistencies, ask questions, and verify claims. True friends don't build elaborate deceptions to exploit your generosity. Victoria's new studio apartment costs $900 per month. I know because I looked it up. It's about what she deserves to be paying for rent, given her actual financial situation. No more rent payments from friends who think they're helping someone in need. The IRS is very thorough when they investigate fraud cases. Very, very thorough. So what do you think? Did she get what she deserved? Or did I go too far? Let me know in the comments.